Okay. So welcome. People are here who are here for the first time. Okay, great. So last week I talked about power and surrender and intimacy and the sexualization of intimacy within the student-teacher relationship, and apparently more than one person thought that that was like the preamble to a big confession of ongoing sexual misconduct, and I just maybe chickened out right at the end. But no, it is something that probably needs more time and just to bring those themes of power and sexuality, intimacy into for that to be a viable Dharma theme and something to talk about, both the beauty of all of this and the potential great harm and the history of harm in spiritual traditions that sexuality has, when held unskillfully, has brought. So anyway, it's good to be here. Let's settle in to sit. Just surrendering the body to the stillness. If I told you to stop meditating, exactly what would you stop doing? The awareness is just about effortless. And we simply take refuge in the awareness rather than in the story of our life. So breathing in, know that you're breathing in. Breathing out, know that you're breathing out. And thoughts and sounds and sensations are not the enemy. There are no enemies in experience. We can just tune into the kind of impact that sounds or thoughts or other sensations have on the body, on the breath. we hear something, and there's a jolt of feeling through the body. And it's like we bless those feelings, that emotional response, with our awareness. And as it fades, we might again anchor to the rhythm of the body breathing. Often as we practice, there's a kind of subtle image that we have of our head, our eyes, a kind of image of the headquarters where mindfulness lives. And we maybe picture ourselves looking at, witnessing the breath, the body. But all of these images are just that. As we settle in, begin to notice these subtle kinds of thoughts as thoughts. The awareness feels like it has less and less of a location, less and less of a center point. Just opening to the body, the breathing. As if we can become that openness. As the inner life begins to feel more and more safe, there's less and less need to keep track of what's happened, what will happen. Feels more and more natural just to keep falling into the openness of the moment. These last few minutes, just give yourself over to awareness. So we have some time for any questions about practice.
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
I wasn't fully to sleep, but at times I felt like I was trying to stay very open to whatever that meant at the time. Like I was starting to possibly get dull.
Yeah. Yeah. So we usually kind of associate relaxation and ease with, it sort of like signals a certain kind of unconsciousness, it's like so closely associated with dullness or sleepiness or something, and we're trying to sort of pair actually that kind of relaxation and ease with the brightness of awareness. And the relaxation and ease and a certain kind of like easiness with what was happening, like there wasn't a lot of fighting, right, with what was happening. These are all good things and things to actually capitalize on. And then it's just about actually merging that with the kind of brightness and clarity of awareness. Now, you can open your eyes, you can sit up a bit straighter, you can sit with your back off the chair, you can really focus on the inhale rather than the exhale. You can try to get more precise with the beginnings and endings of the breath. But sometimes you're going to be dull, and that's okay. Yeah, it's okay. Some of it is, you sit enough that it's just like, we just wind up not making a big deal of what happens in any given sit or moment, and maybe the last thing I'll say is just you can be conscious of when you sit. Like this is supportive to be in a group, but on your own it may be that that nighttime isn't the right time, and many people sit in the morning. Yeah, others. Yeah, no.
So I'm at a point where I'm feeling like I'm related to the mind more rather than from it. So I can see stories coming up, and it's not one of those things where I kind of have like amnesia in my own head, or wake up somewhere and how did I get here?
Yeah.
I'm watching these things show up, and I'm watching them walk away. And I was kind of curious as to how to handle that. And the advice I was given was to look at the impersonal, unsatisfactory, or impermanent nature of those thoughts.
Yeah.
That sounded good in theory until I tried to do it.
Yeah, all of Buddhism sounds good in theory.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So, what aspects of those stories can I concentrate on? So
Right.
Coming up, I'm like, well, this is me thinking about me doing things with people I know.
Yeah.
How do I find how do I kind of filter for those aspects? What would I look for?
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, noticing. I'm going to talk about some of those kinds of themes tonight. Noticing impermanence. A lot of times, what's happening is we're doing that. We're noticing impermanence, but we're sort of like perceiving from a very permanent standpoint, and so and so it's like this real, very coagulated sense of me, and I'm noticing, and I'm supposed to look for impermanence, and I'm noticing some changes or something. But my experience is that for the reflection and the value of like seeing impermanence means that we have to like give over more and more deeply to it, to the insight. And I will talk quite a bit about this tonight. And as a kind of mental construct of, oh, I'm seeing the three, it's known as the three characteristics, dukkha, anicca, anatta, unsatisfactoriness, changingness, and the unownability of phenomena, or the centerlessness of phenomena, or the ungovernability of self and other and phenomena. As a like cognitive reappraisal strategy, they're only modestly useful, because there's the feeling like where we may be noticing, oh, here's this fantasy, it's changing, it's not going to lead to ultimate satisfaction, but we're like there's a part of us that's like, nah. Still holding out some hope, like there's the heart, you can feel it, it's like mixed, and it feels like it gets too technique-y and too mental, and mostly I think the antidote is actually surrendering more deeply to impermanence, which I will talk about tonight, so hopefully that'll speak to some of it. But yeah, I appreciate your commitment to looking and practicing and being honest when things don't feel like they're working or something. Yeah.
It felt like as soon as one about it was like shining a light on a bunch of fucking roaches.
Yeah.
Impermanence.
And then yeah. Wait, so the thoughts leave, or?
As soon as I'm like, oh, this is the thing. Maybe I'm gonna do that. And by then, whenever I was checking out, it vanished.
Yeah.
While I was like, oh, I came tumbling down as soon as I started reloading, like trying to do, I guess.
To notice the impermanence of thought means that at some level there will not be any more meaning, like that we're letting go deeply enough with enough mindfulness, enough clarity and equanimity that the whole meaning of the narrative starts to break down. Like that's getting pretty quiet because the mind is like so driven. It's like a meaning-making machine, and it just keeps producing meaning. But to really pay attention to thought is to kind of surrender to the moment deeply enough so that the whole meaning of the content of the thought starts to like lose its charge, starts to fade away. It becomes like sound, Yeah. Yeah. Maybe one or two more if there are any people.
No one else leaves another question spot.
Let me wait, and also if it's been very male-dominated questions the last couple of weeks. Any women or shy people who don't want to ask a question? Not to put you on the spot. Every time I do this and you guys are like totally quiet, I feel like I'm playing chicken. Just like, who's gonna break? But you guys have the benefit of the diffusion of responsibility. Bam, there we go.
Can you please speak to the benefits of practicing within a community versus being a solitary practitioner?
Yeah, nice. So can you say a little bit more about like what what matters to you or how you connect to that, the community practice for solitary
Yeah,
practice?
I tend to do a fair amount of service work within the community
Yeah.
and tend to be diligent about practice
Yeah,
in a group, but not alone.
yeah. Yeah, so I mean, how many people find it easier to sit in groups? And how many people find it easier to sit alone? There are some, but okay. Yeah, I've been doing yoga for like 10 years. I don't think I've done it in my home once, you know. I kind of need the crew, you know, and I need to have a teacher telling me what to do. And meditation has been different in that respect, but for a lot of people, there is a sense of like, there's just a sense of solidarity and a kind of, this is like the jewel of Sangha. So one part of the mind goes to like, wait a second, why can't I practice alone? But the other part of the mind actually a way of conceptualizing it is like, what a beautiful thing that you're actually nourished by community. Like you actually receive nourishment from it. And that's powerful to be able to take that in. Is it a question of like are you trying to motivate yourself for solo practice? Is that it? Yeah. And sitting practice specifically?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I'll just say a couple things. One is that it can be useful just to make contact with the cushion each day. Like even if you just get up after 10 seconds, right? And just put the body there. It's like there's a certain kind of muscle memory and and then maybe you wind up staying, but you don't have to. 10 seconds. Will you do that?
Yeah.
10 seconds. That's it. And then you like sit down, you take one breath, and you're like, bam, get up, done. That's good. Check for that day, right? And the goal of that is to kind of like just keep some thread of connection to the practice, because sometimes the whole meditation area becomes like encased in guilt and shame, right? That, like you kind of like look over at the cushion and it's kind of like. And you just sort of turn the other way. Just cut right through that. Just 10 seconds and just stay there, for 10 seconds. And the other piece is just to get familiar with like what is actually happening in the mind when we consider the prospect of sitting. And there's like usually some subtle flavor of aversion that we're anticipating what we're going to need to feel the moment we sit down. And we may need to feel that. And maybe it's going to be intense and prolonged, but it's often quite fleeting, and it's like there's this initial kind of like paper tiger of resistance that comes up when we sit down. And then something settles in. And so for years I spent I was sitting early in the morning, and I'm not a morning person. And like each time at the beginning of an hour-long sit, the first thought would be, I don't want to meditate. Like they would just reliably, we would ring the bell, and then the first thought would just be like, I don't want to meditate. But the relation between that thought and how I would feel at minute 30 or after the whole, it was like such a distant memory. And yet that kind of resistance like can control my whole life, you know. I also reflect on like, what do we actually think we're avoiding in not sitting, you know? Like it feels like we're like pulling a fast one on Mother Nature, you know, like I'll just like, won't do that. But it's just like our life, there or here, off the cushion, on it, you know. And so it can be helpful to just get clear on priorities, and I often reflect on my own mortality as a way of like consolidating my wish to do good, you know, just like the fleetingness of our lives, yeah. Okay, so let's take maybe 10 minutes or so and say hi to people, and bathrooms back there, one there, and I'll ring the bell in 10 minutes.